Welcome to the Final Cut Pro tutorial number 2. We're going to look at some basic simple things, how to get a project set up, and a little bit of how to get around on the project timeline, editing, and other things. So first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to point out things that we went over in the first tutorial, where everything is, the layout. Here is the event library, still right here, still can be disappeared that way or brought back in this way. We've got your browser, but we've got no event selected, so we don't see anything in that browser. This is our display window and our inspector, and down here is where our project will be, but right now it's the project library. We just have to choose one of these. Okay, first thing first, I'm going to go File, New Event, and what I'm going to be working on today is Audio Slideshow. As soon as I do that, I get a chance to name it. Call it Audio Slideshow, nice and easy. Notice that I'm putting mine on my hard drive because that's where I want it. You'll be putting most of your stuff for this class on your external drive. This is my external drive up here, and you would have this highlighted, and you'd go File, New Event, and that would place it on your hard drive. Okay. You have two choices here to import files or import from a camera, but before we do that, I also know that I'm going to make a new project. So down here in the folder that I want, I'm going to hit the plus sign to create a new project. I'm going to give it a name, also calling it Audio Slideshow. Not Slideshow. Slideshow. I'll say OK. Now I'm ready to go. Everything is beautiful, it's perfect, ready to go. I have two ways to get files into Final Cut. One is to pull them in from a camera or a card. The other is to pull them in from a file, from a folder. I'm going to show you both ways. First, import from camera. Takes a second, it looks around, and it says, well, you've got this camera. I don't want to pull from my onboard camera, I want to pull from a card, which is this Canon. Down here I have all the clips that are on this Canon, and I can skim them. Notice I'm not clicking. I'm just running my mouse over them, and it's enough to kind of give me a quick preview of what's in the clip. Nice and easy. So I pick the clip or clips that I want. If I want more than one, I can shift click them if they're all together, or if I want to skip one and pick up something on the other side, I can command click and pick it up over to this side. Pretty easy. Those are the ones I want. I say import selected. It asks a couple of questions, but the main one is, where do you want it? I want to add it to the same event that I've already started, so most of those defaults are going to be fine for you all the time. Notice that pie graph right there? It basically was adding up all the stuff that it was doing on the import. I'm going to close that window now. There's all my clips. Nice and easy. Now, for our slideshow, we're going to be working with a lot more than just clips off of a card. But there you have clips off of a card. And they're in the browser, and they're ready for us to work on. Let's add a couple more. Here we go. We're going to go to our file, and we've already got our event, but we need to import. We've already imported from the camera, so now we need to import some files. Now this looks similar, but now we get to choose anything on our hard drive. Notice here's my external drive, here's my card. For the stuff that you shoot, if you shoot still pictures on our small cameras, they're going to land in a folder called DCIM, and you're going to want to pull those off. Remember, for video, we don't really touch the card. We just use Final Cut to do the transcoding. For pictures, you got to dive in just a little deeper. So I've selected my card. I find the DCIM folder. I drop it down. The name of the camera that I shot on. Yours will say something else, like 101 Canon, something like that. Drop down, and there's all your pictures. So you can grab all your pictures. I'm doing a click at the top, shift click at the bottom. Check this, add to existing event. Yes, I want it to be part of this event. And go. Boom, there they are. Okay? Okay, so we showed you how to import files, how to import from the card. Now, there's one more way to import, and since these really aren't the photos or the movies that I want for my slideshow, I'm going to select them all, get rid of them, and show you one more way to bring files in. So I'm just going to select everything here and hit delete. Notice it didn't really take them out. It put a red line across the top here, and if I drop it down, it'll say rejected. That's just Final Cut's way of kind of keeping track of you. So I'm going to go up here and tell it to hide rejected. Once I'm telling it to hide them, they don't show up. Here's the other way to bring some files in. All you have to do is find the files that you want. I'm going to my external drive. I have a folder here with everything that I want, and I'm going to highlight these. Again, top one. I'll bring in my video first. 3 pieces of video, drag and drop. I can't drop here, but I can drop specifically to my event, and it adds them to the event. So I have to go all the way across to the event. So along with that, I can drag all of my still photos. Again, just doing a shift click, bring it over. I can't drop it in here where it's going to end up. I have to go to the event. It takes a second, and they all show up for me. Okay. Now I am set up, ready to go. I've got still pictures, I've got video, and we'll get to that. So we're ready to work down on the timeline. The basics of editing are so simple that really you've just got to choose from your raw video the sections, the portions that you want, and drag them down to your project and put them in the order you want. That's the whole essence of video for this class. At least that's what we're doing. Take it from here as it's raw, put it down in the timeline where it's nice and clean and exactly what we want. So I'm going to show you some quick edits. I'm using my arrow keys to navigate exactly where I want to be. You see, I'm slowly getting ready to say something. And
My name is.
That sounds good. So I'm using my back arrow. Perfect, that's where I want to be. I'm going to set an endpoint by using the I key, I for in. I'm going to listen to my soundbite by hitting spacebar, play it back.
My name is Drew Tyler, Drewtyler, and I'm an instructor of digital media at Weber State University.
For an audio slideshow, I ought to introduce myself and start off that way. So, seems fitting. Now that I've got to the end, I hit spacebar again, and now I'm going to hit O for out. Okay, nice and simple. I've got a clip that I want to drag down to my project timeline, and there's multiple ways to do that. But before I do it for my audio slideshow, I know that this video is going to get discarded, and all I really need is the audio. So I'm coming down here to this section and changing it to audio only. These are the different ways that I can drop audio down to the project timeline. I can either grab with my hand, bring it down, and let go. Command Z that. Or if I have that all set up and ready to go up here, I can actually hit the append to the end of the timeline, and it drops it right down for me. So multiple ways to get there. Drag and drop, or append it down at the bottom. Now I'm going to come in and find me another soundbite maybe that sounds good.
Sometimes I'm embarrassed to invite people in here because there is a lot of junk, but I think The Office speaks a lot to who I am.
That sounds pretty good. So I'm going to start back there at the beginning, and I'm going to go ahead and put I for an endpoint.
Sometimes I'm embarrassed to invite people in here because there is a lot of junk, but I think The Office speaks a lot to who I am. Like it's usually bouncing with some tunes. It's usually got.
And I forgot what I was saying, so I stopped. But I'm going to put an out point there, and we'll drag this one down. Again, just toss it on the end, and we'll find one more section, and then we'll start some edits.
The interesting thing is I can find anything I want because.
And again, I'm using my arrows to refine that selection. I just click down with my playhead, and then you can hear the interesting thing. So I get to the beginning of that by going back, I for an endpoint.
The interesting thing is I can find anything I want because I'm a very visual person. I can remember what pile something is in or what edge of the desk it's on, and I just have to sort through a couple of papers to find it. So it may look like a mess, but I'm pretty sure I know where just about everything is. I think I've only lost one thing.
That's good enough. And there's my O for out. Again, I can drag and drop, or I can append to the end. And this one doesn't matter where my playhead is, it just appends right to the end. So there's 3 solid clips that we're working on right there. They all say something, but I did want to do a little bit of editing on them before we get too far. So I'm going to zoom in by using the Command plus, and that just gets me closer. It's the same thing as sliding this slider down here, getting closer. Remember that first clip? I said my name is Drew Tyler and I spelled my name. I want to chop that out, so I'm going to show you quickly how we chop that out. Now at the beginning, for first so we just kind of know how to get around here, I can go up and down arrow to get from edit point to edit point. Notice that it's taking me between edit points. And when I get more things on the timeline, it takes me more places. That's the up and down arrow. Left and right still do one frame at a time. So let's listen to this first one. Up arrow to that one.
My name is Drew Tyler, Drewtyler, and I'm
Okay, so I want to edit that out. I'm going to click down again.
Drew Tyler, Dr.
So before I start spelling, I want to cut this. So I'm using my arrow to go back, listening. I'm listening for Drew Tyler D. Okay, so there's the D. So I'm going to go right before I hear it. I hear the D, and I'm going to back up one. And here's the shortcut to cut this. I have to turn my arrow into a blade by hitting the B button. And I'm going to just clip it.
Drewtyle.
So I go to the end of me saying R, and I can clip it again. Now you don't have to know all the shortcut keys because you can always find out where the tools are. Here's where all the tools are. The one that we use all the time is the A, or the arrow, or select. And then this one that I just jumped to was the blade. So I usually am working with this arrow. And that's how I move things around and how I select things. And B is blade, how you chop things back to A. So this is the Drewtyler spelling. I'm just going to highlight it and hit the delete key. Get it out of the way. That's it. Just delete it, lift it out, and then play through it.
Drew Tyler, and I'm an instructor of digital media
Good enough.
at Weaver State University.
And then
Sometimes I'm embarrassed to invite.
I can keep playing through my edits. So I like to click down and play through the edits. When I join audio together, I like to kind of follow it along.
The interesting thing is I can.
Okay, so here I kind of went too far.
It's usually bouncing with some tunes.
Maybe that's where I want to stop it, because
It's usually
remember I didn't say what I wanted to say, so I'm going to end it with bouncing with some tunes.
It's usually bouncing with some tunes.
Spacebar to stop. Grab the end of this and tighten it up a little bit, and it will snap to my playhead. Like it stopped there. I could have jumped past it, but it knew that I wanted to kind of tighten things up there.
It's usually bouncing with some tunes. The interesting thing is I can find anything I want because
And it plays through quite nicely. So go ahead and I'll zoom back out so I get a full picture there. And I'm ready to go on to the next little bits. This is some pretty easy navigation down here. In fact, I'm going to split this video into two, and this is how we navigate. And once we're down here, there's some other ways. Spacebar to play.
my name is Drew Tyler, and I'm an instructor of digital.
There's also the JKL keys, which is interesting because K is stop, so even if I'm stopped, nothing changes. L is play.
Media at Weaver State University.
K to stop. J plays backwards. K to stop. So think of it as kind of like a lever or switch or something. You push it forward
Digital
on
media
L,
at Weaver State University.
it goes. If you hit L twice, it goes double fast. Triple fast. So I can kind of get around a little faster with just leaving my hands on the keyboard. I'm hitting K to stop every time. J to go backwards fast. K to stop.
Digital media.
So many ways to get around. I can just click timeline, or the playhead on the timeline comes to me. I can hit L to play.
It's usually
L 2, 3, 4 times to kind of zip through. J to go backwards. J a couple times to go backwards fast. I mean, these are pretty simple ways, but JKL. Arrows go frame by frame. Up and down goes edit point to edit point. Spacebar is also start and stop. And you know what? It's all right here too. You use these keys to do the same thing. So there's some of the basics. I'm going to show you real quick something called snapping and skimming. If I turn on this one for skimming, notice that I'm not clicking, but that playhead is following me. And if I had pictures down here for demonstration, you'll see that I'm not even clicking, but it's showing me everything as I skim, because here we are, skimming is on. The one next to it is audio skimming, and again, I'm not clicking on anything just by rolling my cursor over whatever there, it shows up. It's basically telling me where I am, every moment of the day. I prefer not to edit with those, so I'm going to turn those off. Now I just click it and tell myself, okay, that's what it looks like, that's where I am. And then we talked briefly about snapping. This is the button for snapping. I can turn it off or on. If it's off, anything that I'm moving around on the timeline can go anywhere. Like, it's not really concerned about anything else. I can drag this within a couple of frames and be off by a couple of frames, and it won't tell me until it slides up, right? Or on the flip side, I could be off by a couple of frames here and have this huge gap, and it won't tell me. Like right here, I even have one gap, I think. There, see those black gaps, and then back into the second picture. But if I'm zoomed out far enough, I wouldn't be able to tell that. So I turn on snapping, and then when I'm dragging things around, it gives me this yellow kind of highlight that says, you are as close to that as you can get. Okay? So that's pretty easy maneuvering in the timeline. Starting to get some stuff dropped down into the timeline. I'm going to wrap this one up. And the next one, we will go over things like how to build multiple tracks, how to put transitions in on top of this line, and how to add some matte sound to the bottom of this audio slideshow. And that will be in our next tutorial. Thanks for joining me.